Hello. So, I went to church today and I asked my priest a question. I said, "Are the Jews evil?" And he he said no. So I was pretty disappointed with that response. Well, here I'll give a little more context. So first I said to him, well, he sat down next to me because, like, I go to an Orthodox church. I just started going there. He sat down next to me. We have, like, fellowship after Mass. And they serve food, and the priest sat down next to me, and I asked him a question, and I said, "Father, can I ask you a controversial question?" And he said, "Yeah, of course." And I said, "Are the Jews evil?" I told him. I told him it'd be controversial. And he said, "No, of course." He said, "No, they're not." He said some stuff, and I said, "I think they are evil." And I wanted to know the church's position. And I said, like, I think he asked, like, "Why do you think that?" I said, "Because Jesus said that they're evil." Which is true. It's in the end of John 8. He calls them the children of the devil. There's the thing about that they're the synagogue of Satan. There's like a bunch of different references where they say the Jews are evil. First Thessalonians 2 verse 15 says Jews are the enemy of all men. It's got various translations, but that's one of them, what it's saying. And it says like they're contrary to all men, or enemies, or... And I just wanted to know, like, what does the priest think? Or what is the Orthodox position? And he said no, and I was actually really surprised with that, because I think that they're evil. And there was another person sitting there, a younger guy as well, and he was saying that he basically started trying to explain that the Jews are not evil, and it's like, I've been hearing this a lot. It's not true though, and I'll explain why. He was saying, like, oh, it's in each person is good and evil and everything like this, and I've heard this before, and basically that's kind of like this. It always gets brought up. There's like an individualism versus collective argument. There's various arguments that get brought up, and these are all new arguments. Basically, they're all like New Age arguments, or not New Age, but modern arguments. It's like the individual versus the collective. Oh, it's not all Jews. Oh, it's a ethnicity and a religion, and there's a lot of like muddying that goes on, and yeah, it's all modern pretty much, and like the reason I asked him wasn't because I was trying to put him on the spot, wasn't because I was trying to start a big argument, wasn't because I don't know, I think it's important. Like, I think as a Christian, it's an important thing to speak the truth, and basically nobody does, is what I noticed. Nobody says anything. Anything that's truly controversial, people don't say it. So I'll say it. But anyway, so I was saying to this other guy who was there, and he was saying all this stuff. I said, I agree with you, but where we differ, like, I didn't fully agree with him, but I agreed with like what he was saying, that he was saying about love, and I was saying I agree, we have to love even our enemies. And the priest, he kind of like started talking to somebody else. Somebody came up to him, But I was saying to this other guy, saying to him, we actually have to love everybody as Christians, including our enemies. Where I differ from what you're saying, I told him, is that I think that Jews aren't our friends. I think they're our enemies as Christians. And I told him, the Jews have a prayer called the Birkat Haminim. You know, nobody knows this. Christians don't know this. They don't teach this. Jews don't tell anybody this. But they have a daily prayer. They have like, I forget the name of their daily prayer, but it's 18 different prayers. And it might be the Ad Manai or the Ad Amadai or something like this, but it's 18 different prayers. They added a 19th, and it's the Birkat Haminim. They pray for the death of all Christians every day. It used to be, so it changed over time, but when they added it, it was the death of all Nazarenes. Nazarenes are Christians. And then they sort of changed it over time. Maybe not all of them have changed it, but observant Jews. And this is again where it gets muddied waters, but they changed it to be like the death of all enemies, or death of all heretics, or death of all. Then they changed it to be like an internal thing. Oh, the death of internal hereticism, or is that even a word? Internal, unbelief or something like this. Well, anyways, it started as the death of all Christians, and it was taught by Maimonides, one of their great theologians, one of their great rabbis, similar to St. Thomas Aquinas, that Christians have, taught to do this. And it's like, what's going on with people that they don't, they hear this stuff, but they don't, and it doesn't register, nothing registers? It's like very strong propaganda, in my opinion. So I'll read some. So anyways, I had this, I asked this question, controversial question. I felt it needed to be asked. Because I just think it's weird. Like, nobody says anything. What's up with that? Everybody's afraid, I guess. So I'll read some quotes here, and this is kind of like why I've asked it, because I just feel like the narrative needs to change to reflect truth. Like it's weird what's going on, where nobody talks about anything. They talk about how everything is getting worse. Everybody's talking in like a coded, slanted way, where they're not trying to address. They're trying to address that everything's getting worse, but they won't address like what's kind of like going on. It's like, do people not know? But this is where I say that people effectively live in different realities based on the media that they consume. But so anyways, I'll read some quotes here from earlier church figures. So Pope Clement VIII, he says, the Bible itself says that the Jews are an accursed people. Saint Agobard says Jews are cursed and covered with malediction. The curse has penetrated them like water in their bowels and oil in their bones. They are cursed in the city and cursed in the country, cursed in their coming in and cursed in their going out. Cursed are the fruits of their loins, of their lands, of their flocks. Cursed are their cellars, their granaries, their shops, their food, and the very crumbs off their tables. Saint Justin the Martyr said, the Jews were behind all the persecutions of the Christians. They wandered through the country everywhere, hating and undermining the Christian faith. St. Thomas Aquinas said, it would be licit, according to custom, to hold Jews in perpetual servitude because of their crime. St. Barnabas said, do not add to your sins by saying that the covenant is both theirs and ours. Yes, it is ours, but they, Jews, lost it forever. St. John Chrysostom said, how dare Christians have the slightest intercourse with Jews? They are lustful, rapacious, greedy, perfidious bandits, pests of the universe. Indeed, an entire day would not suffice to tell of all their rapine, their avarice, their deception of the poor, their thievery, and their huckstering. So that was St. John Chrysostom. Like, I go to an Orthodox Christian church, and there's during the Mass, there's a part that's like straight from St. John Chrysostom. That's why I asked the priest, I was like, are the Jews evil? I don't get it. I don't understand, why do people think differently now? So St. Ambrose said, Jews worship the devil. The Jews are the most worthless of all men. They are lecherous, greedy, rapacious. They are perfidious murderers of Christ. They worship the devil. Their religion is a sickness. The Jews are the odious assassins of Christ, and for killing God there is no expiation possible, no indulgence or pardon. Christians may never cease vengeance, and the Jew must live in servitude forever. God always hated the Jews. It is essential that all Christians hate them. I disagree. I believe that we should love our enemies, but they're still our enemies. That's kind of like the main point, actually, and the point that I'm kind of getting at more and more and more. So the Jews hate us. Jews hate Christians. Like, this is okay. So those were some quotes from Christian perspective, or from very prominent Christians of the past, church fathers. And the Jewish perspective is that they hate Christians. They believe Christ is burning in hell in boiling excrement. They believe that Mother Mary, the Virgin Mary, was a whore. They believe that Christ was a sorcerer. And this is all in the Talmud, by the way. The Talmud is their holy book, which is basically their way of talking about how do they apply the 613 commandments of the Old Testament. Like, how do they interpret those? That's in the Talmud. So anyways, but the Talmud says a lot of different things, but it says many things concerning, well, I don't know about many things, but it says things concerning Christ. So anyways, that's sort of the perspective, the Jewish perspective. They hate Christians, and then there's all this muddying about, like, what do they actually believe, and not all Jews are like this and everything, and all this stuff. But I'm wondering, like, what does that look like? What does that actually look like to love your enemies? Like, I'm trying to figure that out, actually. Because being like Christ, that would look like dying. Like, that would look like being crucified by your enemies. And then he said, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. It's very powerful, actually. Because, as a Christian, it does feel like we're really under attack here in the Western world. Mass migration and everything. And everything's kind of like topsy-turvy, upside down. And it's like, what does love even really mean? Because you hear it all the time. Oh, I love Taylor Swift. Oh, I love poke bowls. Oh, I love sweaters. Oh, I love, just the word gets like thrown around all the time. It's like ba-da-ba-ba-ba, I'm loving it. Does anybody know where that's from? It's just, what does it even mean? So speaking from like a deeper place, love is a choice, and it's like, it's a free will choice, and that's how it exists, and it binds together the world, really, because it's a it's not like a, how do I put it, at least for me it's not an easy thing, but I do recognize that it is actually like the purpose of life, because God is love. As Christians, that's what we believe. He's love, but he's also joy, peace, and he's also beyond that, to which we can't even describe, ineffable. But yeah, I don't know. So anyways, going back to the modern context, what does that even mean to like love your enemies? Does that, because I've heard different things, like, does that mean let them all into your country? Does that mean like, you know, everything's multicultural and diverse now, and it's like, what does it even mean? And does that mean, and this is where it gets really weird too in the church, like, does that mean, you know, love LGBT people and let them in, and encourage people to like have the pride flag in church because we love them? I disagree. I disagree. I think that we love the sinner, we don't love the sin. So it gets very complicated, and I really feel like the older generation has failed us terribly. Like boomers basically have failed us completely, and Gen X too. But I feel like really like what happened, and I think even going further back, before the boomers, which I'm not even sure what generation it would have been from before the silent generation, but like guys like Woodrow Wilson, you know, the president of the United States, who signed into law the Federal Reserve Act, and I think he might have even signed into law the IRS or something like that, but it was the Federal Reserve Act that really screwed things up. Enslavement of mankind by debt. You know, money is actually, it's all created out of debt now, but and has been since they left the gold standard. But it didn't actually need to be on the gold standard. It was more so like it gets complicated, but it could have been okay as fiat currency, and it was for a while, but they needed to keep it in inflation adjust, and they needed to keep it adjusted to the population, and the supply of money shouldn't have risen so much so that it became devalued, because then money is like it's just a tax. Inflation is just a tax basically on your savings. But anyways, my point being, he shouldn't have signed that into law. And then Woodrow Wilson, he's like quoted later as saying that he's like, I made a terrible mistake. I think he basically says that I screwed the country and put the power in the hands of a few men. Well, who were those? It was like Jews. It was like the Rothschilds. Who owns all the banks? So anyway, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, well, how does all of this get so screwed up? And then now I ask a question to the priest, the Orthodox priest, and he thinks that Jews are like blameless. It's like, what? Like, dude, I don't understand. I do not understand. But this is the same with all boomers. None of them have any responsibility or accountability. They have a lot of complaints, but yeah, they've been psyoped so heavily. It's like when you talk to them, they want to get into a long story a lot of the time. That's kind of how boomers are. And it's not always very much of a productive story. It's kind of like a nice timeshare, like sharing time, you know, telling stories, but it doesn't address any kind of real world problems. And yeah, I don't know. I just feel like, how did it get so screwed? And I always come back to, well, it's men's fault. Like, it's because I think about who actually has power or the potential to power. It's white men. Like, and I'm not talking about I'm not really trying to blame white men today or anything, but that's who actually has the power or the potential to fix things. And I'm kind of, I wouldn't say like totally black pilled right now, but lately it's been feeling kind of bleak. And ultimately I believe in Jesus, so I believe that he's our savior. But when I look around and I'm thinking about, like, what actually can I do? And it's pretty tough. And I kind of have to remind myself that, well, praising and worshiping God is the most important thing. And I'm trying to focus more on, like, actually trying to, like, evangelize, and kind of trying to be a little bit brave to do that, because I find it really hard. But just to talk to people, especially about faith. So I guess for me, just going back to the whole asking the priest controversial question thing, I think it was actually kind of important. And I feel like it was like a success in a way, just the fact that I asked the question. And I don't know what's going to come of it. I kind of have an idea though, but I feel like it's just important just to ask the question, you know what I mean? Because, and this is how I think of things, because it's a narrative shift. Basically, it's a new reality. It's, okay, this gets weird, but it's a new reality, and then other people react to it. So in that way, it's like a change, basically. Because otherwise, it's like, well, what are we gonna do? We're gonna talk about, how was your Christmas? Oh, I went over here. I ate some food. Haha, I'm still eating leftovers. Ha. It's like, I don't care. Like, I'm not trying to be rude, but from my knowledge and from my experience, when you do that, it never goes anywhere. Like, the conversations just, they are that forever. And I don't know. So anyways, I just asked the question, and I could actually feel my heart beat a little faster as well when I asked the question. It was beating faster, and I was kind of like, just trying to, like, like hold, I don't want to say hold frame, because it sounds, I don't really like using that language, but I was just trying to, like, hold to what's true, essentially. I prefer that, because what's true is what's true, you know what I'm saying? And Jesus is the truth. So yeah, I did. I asked the question. It was controversial question. I don't know what's gonna happen, but I'm happy I said something. And then, okay, so later on, so the priest, he leaves. So generally what happens is, when people are uncomfortable, they just try and distance. Like, I'm not trying to be rude or mean or anything, really, when I say all this. This is just my observations. But if you say something, and then there's kind of like this chilled speech effect. Chilled speech is just people just kind of like, oh, okay, well, all right, well, I guess I gotta go and check on what's going on over here. And then they just leave, you know what I mean? This is kind of like a general strategy people have. And yeah, it's a narrative control thing. It's got to do with power. And people have fears, social fears essentially, where they don't want to be associated with something controversial, because they know that it will actually confer on them a detriment socially, because people are aware of the social norms. So anyways, but the social norms are not actually always what's true. That's why I asked the question. That's what I've kind of known for a long time. But so anyways, he left, and then I was talking to these other guys there. These other young guys. It's like, they were kind of like almost like responding to or catching up to what I was saying. And in conversation, sometimes I notice this, and I actually don't like doing this too much. And I don't even want to say that because it sounds kind of weird, but it's like saying something wherein it's like kicking a bee's nest or a beehive. Although I'm very interested in these topics, I just find that people cannot handle them. As legitimately, I find I find that people cannot handle more difficult conversations. But these guys were actually pretty good. They were like younger guys. There was one older guy there, but he started going off. He was like rambling a little bit, but we were talking about different things, and eventually we started talking about like conspiracy theories a little bit, and actually I really enjoy talking about that. But it did kind of get a little bit bleak there for a second, and I actually don't like when things get really bleak, because I kind of like feel like we're okay. You know, we have Jesus. We're okay. We still have to fight. We still have to be strong in our faith. But yeah, at the same time, I do like to acknowledge reality. So, anyways, we were talking about these different things, and it's kind of nice. Oh, and another thing was, man, I'm really enjoying and loving just like the social connection, because not talking to people is very hard, seriously. And that's kind of what I was doing. I was just like not talking to anybody basically. Or if I would talk to people, it was like the same stupid conversations, and like I was not able to really be authentic. I was not really able to say what was on my mind as much. So I feel like I've actually kind of come quite far, as to compared to how I was a while ago. But so this guy, he asked me, and I really appreciate it. Like, honestly, it's like the conversation moves fast, and I don't really get a chance to say how much I appreciate everything. And also, I feel like I don't even really. I'm almost hesitant to, because sometimes it really changes the entire flow of a conversation if you start talking about like bringing up compliments and stuff, and it doesn't always change it for the better, but it can almost detract or derail. But it was great. He was asking like good questions. He was saying about like, what are some like hurdles or that you found in your faith or coming to orthodoxy. And I was saying like, struggling with sin, struggling with lust, and with pride as well. And that I need to be, I'm learning that I need to be humble. I need to actually humble myself. And I need to, I actually need to do things in life, not just go to church. I actually have to live like a Christian life. That's what theosis is. That's like the goal of orthodoxy, is like, theosis means like becoming like God. So that's the goal. And I was saying, I actually said, struggling with lust and with pride, and it's like really hard for me to acknowledge stuff like that, but I actually said it, so I felt kind of good just to acknowledge that. And I feel like contextually, like within context, it made sense too, because he asked a genuine question, I gave a genuine response, and so thank you to him just for asking the question, you know what I mean? And then also I felt like I was able to answer it like adequately. Like, it's kind of hard to give a genuine response sometimes, because almost like it's like I don't want to like say something vulnerable, because then I feel like I might get triggered or something, and I do not want to do that. And also I don't want to like feel like the eye of Sauron hit me and everybody stare at me if I say something like that, and then really try and like dig and pry. But no, it was great that he asked that, and it wasn't like super uncomfortable or anything. It just felt nice and honest. So yeah, and but yeah, so anyways, it was nice to have those kind of conversations, and we didn't really talk about it a whole lot, but we more so talked about I was saying like it's also I said it's also difficult just to have faith, like, because I was agnostic for a long time. So it was which means like, I believe there's a God, I just don't know if we can prove it, or I don't know who God is, or I don't know, who or what or God is, and I don't know how we can find out which God is right. There's all these different religions, and everybody's like, and so I was just saying like it's confusing because there's all these different faith systems. Yeah. So, oh yeah, and I was saying that there's also like false dialectics. A dialectic is like, it's like thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. It's like a conversation is basically like an example of a dialectic is, do you like pineapple on your pizza? Oh, I hate pineapple on pizza. Everybody should not have pineapple on their pizza. And then somebody else saying, what? I love pineapple on pizza. What are you talking about? It belongs on pizza. And then having an argument about that. That's called a dialectic. And that's like a really stupid example, but that's to kind of illustrate that there's all these like different dialectics out there, and many of them I found are like false dialectics. It's like you get like, I'm not trying to be mean here, but you get like retards arguing with retards about something retarded, and you can get really like caught up in that, and that's kind of the point. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, so I was saying like that's kind of like also been a challenge as well, because, and I really didn't get to say too much about this, but this is kind of like my area of interest, because how it gets more complicated is when you get factions, when you get actually people who agree on both sides with their respective side, and then it becomes very complicated for an observer, somebody who's like looking at that, both sides, or watching it. It becomes very complicated for the observer to figure out what is true out of that. Oftentimes observers are swayed by the appearance of a victory, and this is like the whole thing about eristic, eristic. If something is eristic, it's or an argument is eristic, it's just trying to get the appearance of a victory. It doesn't care about truth or like what's true. It's just trying to like win the appearance of a victory. And many conversations are like that. So I found that it was hard. That's kind of like a hurdle as well for faith. And honestly, truthfully, that has been a huge hurdle for my faith, and for knowing kind of like what's true and figuring out what's true. It actually like really stalled it for a long time. And I think that's kind of like the purpose of a lot of this like stuff you find online. It just becomes like very confusing. But anyways, yeah, so that was my whole question today to the priest. I asked him, are the Jews evil? He said no. And I disagreed with him. I told him I disagree. I think that they are. And I explained why. I said, within the Vatican II doctrine, and it's hard to get even within conversations, it's hard to get enough time to say all that you want to say. I think this is kind of normal, but I told him, the Vatican II doctrine, it says that Muslims, Christians, and Jews all worship the same God. I said that's not true. In the book of John, it tells us that he who denies the Son also denies the Father. And that's why, a big reason why I left the Roman Catholic Church, as well as the stuff about the Pachamama being blessed and the Muslim prayer room in the Vatican library. I was like, yeah, that's enough. And I didn't really get to say who wrote who wrote the Vatican II doctrine, Nostra Aetate. It was a Jew. He converted to the priesthood after World War II. And then he wrote the doctrine, and he also had a thing about LGBT advocacy as a priest. And then he found a priest's boyfriend, and then he left the priesthood after that. It's what the heck is this? This is the doctrine that we're following as Roman Catholics? Once I found that out, I was like, dude, I can't believe in this, I can't believe in that. It doesn't make any sense. So anyway, I was surprised, really I was surprised that the priest, that's the Orthodox position. I would have been I was more expecting the Orthodox position to maybe put it mildly or something, that we pray for the conversion of Jews, something like this. But he just said, he was trying to defend them almost. So I was pretty surprised. And another main point too is that Christians, Jesus and followers, Christians and his followers, we the Christians, we're part of the Melchizedekian priesthood, which comes before the Mosaic priesthood and the Levitical priesthood, or covenant. I can't remember what it is, but yeah, that's a really important point as well. Yeah, so anyways, I just wanted to bring all that up. And I don't know what'll happen. Maybe I'll get kicked out of the church. I don't know. If I do, then God guide me, and maybe I'll find a different church. It's hard though. It's very hard actually. So I don't know what'll happen. I don't think I'll get kicked out of the church. I think probably just the priest won't want to talk about anything about the Jews or something. I don't know. I don't know what'll happen. It makes people very uncomfortable. Seriously. These topics, it makes people very uncomfortable. And I never really fully got it. But yeah, so I'll add this. This is the last a kind of important thing. So that one other guy, he was sharing actually about his faith and what brought him to the church, and he was saying that it was a psychedelic experience. He took a heroic dose, and I mean, I'm thankful for him for being so honest and sharing his experience. And I just listened and wanted to hear it. And then after when he was talking to me, I said, you know, I also took a heroic dose, and I also felt the love, specifically the love of Jesus during that. And I think an important point here about the love of Jesus, and I was reading the Bible last night, Jesus, he said, "You did not choose me, I chose you." That's like a very important point. And I think the reason it's important is because that's like love. That's really what love is. It's like, it's love is not defensive, you know. Yeah, and that's like a characteristic, or like a reason for love to be able to exist, is that love you choose, you know. Love actually chooses. I think that's a very important point. That for love to exist, it needs to be like a free will choice, basically. Yeah, so yeah, anyway. that's my entire rant. I thought it was a very good question I asked. I think that question is an important one, and yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's gonna happen, you know. Our country is being like totally invaded. All the Western countries are. It's like the demographic shift is extreme, and it's weird, the narrative that's going on. You know, it's like most people don't care. Well, it's like people care, but they don't want to say anything. I don't know what's going on, but we will see. And like I say, I always say this, but it feels like people are living in different realities, because if you ask people about it, specifically like a lot of women, it's like they're so socially conformant that they just uphold like the social norm. And so they just won't want to talk about it for the most part, or they'll call you a racist or something like this. Yet at the same time, it's like, do they not want to have children? Do they not like want... I don't know, they just don't care about things that are actually important, I feel. You know, even if it's like what will lead to happiness, you know, women are much more happy if they have children. This is like scientific. I'm not just making this up, you know, this is from studies. And but yeah, it's a lot, you know. It's a lot of stuff going on. So anyways, that's all.